The guest ranch. Focus question. How does the setting influence Jack? Jack squinted as his mom's car rumbled forward. He was trying to get a better look at Cottonwood Guest Ranch, a long, low building almost the same color as the desert soil it sat on. Why are we on vacation in the middle of nowhere? He grumbled. He flicked his thumb idly across his smartphone's screen. The map doesn't even get a signal. To take a break from all that, Jack's mother replied. She reached over, plucked his phone from his hands, and lowered the window. Smell that. That's fresh air out there. That's nature. So Jack, the air smelled like horses and cows. He could even see the horses tossing their manes, and he and his mom perked and headed into the main building. Inside, old tiny photographs of rodeo riders lined the walls beneath a massive longhorn skull. While his mom checked in, Jack lived through the guest packet, examining photos of the week's activities. There would be horseback riding and hiking, river rafting, the rodeo skills, all leading up to a real cattle drive on the last day. He had to admit that the activities looked pretty cool, especially the riding. All day he had stared out the window, thinking how strange it was to cross the desert by car. Metal, glass, and air conditioning and shielded him from the elements. It had to be different on horseback. You'd be a part of it. Still, Jack felt a little uneasy as he followed his mom to their room. "Mom, are you sure this place is for us?" he asked. "I mean, the people in the photos don't actually look like us." "Give it a chance," his mom urged gently, kicking off her shoes. "Your Uncle Grant said they had a great time when they came here last summer." The next morning, Jack embarked on his first horseback riding lesson, fighting back a yawn. "What sort of vacation made you wake up with the sun?" While the experienced kids saddled up for a trail ride, Jack and the other beginners learned the basics, the parts of the horse, the parts of the saddle, how not to get stubbed or chopped on. The riding instructors made everything look easy, but Jack's horse, Gizmo, and had other ideas. He had huge teeth and muscles like marble. He refused to walk where Jack wanted to go, no matter how hard he tugged on the reins. Why had nobody ever warned Jack just how big horses were in real life? The afternoon hike was a relief on comparison. Jack looked up close at cacti, listened for bird calls, and learned to identify different kinds of animal droppings. But walking around while cacti stabbed you with their spines was nowhere near as fun as a real ride through the desert. Would he ever be able to do that? The next day, Jack dragged his feet back toward the stables. Gizmo whined nervously as soon as he spotted Jack. It was going to be a tough week. Just then, a tall African-American man in a giant white Stetson had loped by. "All right, where are my beginners?" he boomed. Jack blinked. A black cowboy working as a ranch hand in New Mexico. "Saddle up," the man instructed, and everyone leaped into action except for Jack, who was still staring. The ranch hand gave him a wink. "The name's Mitch," he said, tipping his hat. Jack replied. He had no hat to tip. "Pleasure to meet you, Jack. Now hop to it." By the end of class, it was clear Jack was not keeping up. The other beginners were trotting, while Jack could barely direct Gizmo's wanderings. "Giddy up," Jack growled, digging in his heels and wishing he had spurs like a real cowboy. But Gizmo stayed still. "Why don't we spend a little time with Gizmo one-on-one?" Mitch suggested. Jack's face grew warm with embarrassment. "That's okay," he mumbled. "Horseback riding isn't really my thing." "That's a load of manure," Mitch replied. He slipped a sugar cube into Jack's hand. "Sugar's the first secret to cowboying," he joked. "Keep your palm flat now." Gizmo gobbled up the sugar cube as fast as a jackrabbit. Jack grinned. Mitch smiled back, then corrected Jack's posture, adjusting his knees, and told him to loosen his grip on the reins. "You're in charge of the horse," he said. "Always remember that." Slowly, Jack took Gizmo for a walk around the pen. This time, the horse followed his lead. Now that's what I'm talking about. You're unnatural, Mitch declared. Jack took 3 more loops around the pen, and a little faster each time, before Mitch told him to bring Gizmo back in. Jack straightened up, clutching the reins, and clucked his tongue, and this time Gizmo veered wildly off course. Mitch caught the reins just in time. "Wah, boy, wah," he cooed, gentling the horse. "Just a rabbit underfoot, that's all. Easy, now." Carefully, he helped Jack dismount. As soon as he reached the ground, Jack realized he was shaking. "I don't know," he said, looking out over the land, remembering his earlier daydreams of galloping through the desert on horseback. "I might not be cut out for this ranch stuff." "Now what's that supposed to mean?" "I mean, well, come on," Jack exclaimed. "Being a cowboy isn't for blockfuls, is it?" "You don't think I'm a real cowboy?" Mitch asked pointedly. "I guess," Jack said, rolling his eyes. "Don't you roll your eyes at me, son? What do they teach kids at school these days? There's a long history of black cowboys. In fact, in the old days, 1 out of every 4 cowboys was black." "No way," Jack replied. "Maybe cowboying could be for him after all." Yes way," Mitch said, "including some of the most famous ones. Bose Eckert was a tracker in the early Texas cattle drives. Charlie Willis was born a slave, died a bronco buster. Bill Pickett, radio star, started cowboying after 5th grade." "Wow," Jack breathed. Mitch chuckled. "It's true for more than 100 years. Black cowboys found a special kind of freedom out here in the West. Sometimes they had to do the dirtiest, hardest work, but still they persisted. They proved themselves, rode with the other cowboys, white, Mexican, Native American, you name it. All were equals, but under the desert sky." Only that morning, Jack believed there was no place for him in the cowboy story of the West. Suddenly, everything was different. "Thank you," he whispered. "No problem, bud," Mitch said, then swept his big white Stetson off his head and plunkled it down on top of Jack's. The rest of the week, the only thing Jack could think and talk about the riding. He had a goal now, to ride in a cattle drive. He knew he was not ready yet to learn to lasso or barrel ride, but he also knew if he kept at it, like Mitch had said, he would be able to prove himself. He started skipping the afternoon activities to settle up and practice. At night, he rode Gizmo in his dreams. That didn't stop his nerves, of course. The morning of the cattle drive, he noticed all the cacti he could topple into the rocks that could tip Gizmo. "Ready, bud?" asked Mitch. "You bet," Jack replied, squaring his shoulders, adjusting the Stetson, and then they were off. At first, all Jack could think about was his riding. Back straight, knees up, eyes ahead, reins held low with thumbs up. Mitch's advice leaped through Jack's head. "You're in charge, but trust the horse." All around him rode the ranch hands and other guests. Plenty of them were also beginners, Jack realized. He and Gizmo trotted conveniently through the scrub. They weren't galloping, no, but they were keeping pace. When they reached the herd, the cattle seemed unsure where to go, just like the guests. Jack glanced at his mom. How did a cattle drive work, actually? The cowboys knew. "Hang tight," Mitch shouted as he and the other ranch handed spurred on their horses. It was like a big dance. They surrounded the herd and began funneling them towards fresh grazing land. Excitedly, Jack gave Gizmo a little kick. "Stick to the back," Mitch called, and Zack scowled. Why should he? Then he understood. After Mitch had helped move the herd forward, he circled back to Zack and his mom. "Now we round up the stragglers. That's the best part." Jack caught on quickly. Whenever a lazy steer or a distracted cow wandered off, he, Mitch, and his mom worked together to push it back onto the herd. Cowboying turned out to be hot, sweaty, dirty work. It was challenging keeping track on the cattle and Gizmo at the same time. Jack chalked on a lot of dust, and his legs attached by the end of the day. Still, he'd never had so much fun. That night, nothing could dim Jack's smile, though he was so sore that it hurt to walk. At the evening campfire, he collapsed beside his mom and crowded. "Best day ever! You are awesome out there," she said, smiling proudly. "Do you want to see?" She remained in her pocket, and out came the last item Zack expected, his phone. With a quick swipe, his mom opened his photos. There was the cattle drive on vivid detail, Jack and Gizmo trotting off toward the horizon, the two of them creeping up on a wayward steer, Zack dismounting, covered in dust. Looking through the pictures, Jack was whisked back to the incredible sensation of riding through the open desert, just the land and the sky and his horse. "Oh man, wait until my friends see these," Jack exclaimed. But the words gave him pause. The photos would make for great memories, but they were stealing him away from the here and now. His edgy legs, toasting marshmallows, the starlit sky, and the ranch hands crooning cowboy songs. Across the fire, Mitch stood him a wink. "Thanks, Mom," Jack said and popped a marshmallow into his mouth. "But you know, right now, I don't want to be anywhere but here."